I'm Catherine Wygant Fawcett. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Family-Owned Business, otherwise known as IFOB. And it's great to see you all in person and on Zoom. And any board members, if you can raise your hand, thank you all for being here. We appreciate that very much. Brooke Stewart, our Director of Communications. Brooke can raise her hand there. She's our tech person. She'll be your moderator for those on Zoom. We'll be recording the program. We're doing a very nice video recording of this program this time, and we'll be sending out follow-up information with contact. We'd like to thank Seth Weber and his team for this beautiful space. It's a new way for us to try it out, so let us know what you think. At the IFOB, we promote and support and champion the success of family-owned businesses, the backbone of our economy, with education, networking, and other services. This year, we celebrated our 30th anniversary, so pretty excited about that. And we had a really fun awards night at Thompson Point. It was a great space, and we brought back what was old as new, a showcase. So we're bringing it back next year, first 2 weeks of October. We think we have an exciting speaker coming, so we're looking forward to that. We've offered over 50 programs this year, both online and in person. So today we're in person. It's also on Zoom, and then we'll have the recording afterwards. We've offered over 50 programs, both. Oh, I just said that. Sorry. So check out our website. Today, we're really happy to thank our sponsors, Morgan Stanley, the Breakwater Group, Maine Community Bank, Loyola University. We tie in with family business centers around the country, so they're joining us today, and Richard Brothers Financial Advisors and Maine Biz. So thank you to our sponsors because you make it all possible. In a few minutes, I'll invite June Hewlett up to say a few words. We're working really hard on our programs. We will have a survey for you, and we have beautiful door prizes that Maine Community Bank brought. So we'd love to have you give us your thoughts and your information, and then we'll be planning our programs for next year. We really do use that survey data to do that. And our next party is on January 22nd at the Woodlands. It's our holiday New Year party. We moved it from December into January. In the last 2 years, we've always had a snowstorm, but we've always had lots of fun and great food. So please come. So you can count on that. And today we have our final in our how-to series with Randall Richard, who's here, president of Richard Brothers Financial Advisors. And he'll lead us in a lively discussion on the trials, tribulations, and learnings of selling your privately held business. So that should be very entertaining. It's also the author of Keeping Wealth in the Family Business, and he'll be offering that book for one of the door prizes. So thank you. And then we're excited to have the following panelists here to share their insights. We have Robert Burt Vickerson, president of Sports Fields, Inc. We have Robert Bob Grondin, the third Bob, retired president, R.J. Grondin and Sons, and one of the winners for our Rennie's Large Business Award this year. Nice to have you. And we have Fran Tulin, founder of Firebrand Technologies. So they will all be giving you their insights soon. So thank you so much. I will turn it over to Jean, and then towards the end of the program, I will come back to chat with you about the door prizes. And one quick thing I forgot to mention, we do have an online store. So if you're looking for some nice hats or swags or things for you, we have that in the IFOB as well. So thank you, Jean. Come on up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. So it's great to be here this morning. And for those of you who don't know me, I am the president and CEO of Maine Community Bank. For those of you who don't know Maine Community Bank, you may know our two predecessor banks, Biddeford Savings, a 157-year-old bank in Biddeford, and Mechanic Savings, an equally old bank in Lewiston, Auburn. We merged in 2020, on January 1st, 2020, to become Maine Community Bank. And I'm really pleased to say that today we are filing the official paperwork to make our merger with Gorham Savings Bank final to close on January 1st, 2025. So Maine Community Bank will have grown to be a almost $3 billion bank serving Androscoggin, Cumberland, and York counties. We'll be the largest mutual savings bank serving the state, exclusively serving the state of Maine. And I want to sort of mention why that's important to family-owned businesses and why that's important to businesses in Maine. I'm a commercial banker, came from Key Bank, Citizens Bank, and many of our colleagues came from TD Bank or what became People's United. And many of the lenders know what it's like to go through an economic downturn when you're servicing a customer in Maine, when the bank's headquarters outside of Maine decides they don't have an appetite for your particular industry, whether it's hospitality, whether it's office, whether it's car dealerships, whether it's construction. When things get rough, decisions get made, and when they get made out of state, and they don't know the market, they don't know the borrowers, and they don't know the opportunities, decisions get made. And I had the experience, both at Key Bank and at Citizens, to go through those downturns when we had to step in as lenders and help find them a community bank that would take the loans out of our portfolio because we were being asked to divest. So that's why a strong, locally owned, managed community bank is so important. And at $3 billion, I can say that we can support and finance just about any business in the markets we serve, shy of Bath Iron Works and LLB, maybe IBEX. So I think it's a transformational move for the banking industry in Maine. It's also transformational for our customers that can grow with us. Nothing's worse than being at a community bank and being successful and you need more borrowing, but the bank says, you know, you've reached your limit with us. You're going to have another bank relationship. Together, Maine Community Bank and Gorham Savings will be able to finance any borrower of just about any size in our market. And some of our customers are in the room with us today. So I just want to say we're really proud of that. As CEO of Maine Community Bank, I'll be stepping back on January 1st to be president, and Steve DeCastro, the CEO of Gorham Savings Bank, will step forward as the CEO of the combined organization. So we look forward to hearing from you. We're especially proud to be sponsoring this event today because small businesses are the backbone of Maine's economy. Maine has more small businesses as a percentage of businesses than just about any state in the union, and definitely the largest in New England. So it's so important. And I did want to mention, and I know you can hear from great advisors on ownership transition, but one of my life experiences was I left banking for 5 years to join the Small Business Administration in 2009. I did so because I was mortified by what we were doing to our customers, and I wanted to be part of the solution. And the SBA stepped forward with loan guarantees to help small businesses transition out of their banking relationship, what wasn't getting supported, into community banks to help keep financing flowing. So I'm very proud of that organization. The SBA is a U.S. government agency, and some recent changes to their policies enable business acquisitions and transitions more aggressively than before, with a management person in your business can buy the company with as little as 0% down if it's structured the right way with an SBA guarantee. You can also do partial buyouts and buy-ins for partners. And you can also now, the seller can stay in the business longer than 12 months if they're 100% seller of the business to help guide that next generation. So these tools really help, I think, with that family transition that we're talking about, or management buyout. I come from a small business family now. My husband owns a restaurant in Westbrook, Maine, and several rental properties in Greater Portland. I know what it's like to own a small business. I know it's a 24-hour, 7 days a week job. And so having the partners and the knowledge, you can't always go looking for what is the best way to exit this transition. So these experts are going to really help you, but also your bank can help you and talk to you about how we can get this done. Come to us with your story. We'll talk about what is possible. And we've got some of our great team members in the room. Doug Jones in the back is our lender in our Westbrook office, and Justin is in our Portland office, and Hillary, our marketing director. So you can go on our website and find us, maine.bank, after January 1st. So thank you for having us here, and have a great day and learn a lot.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Brandon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be here today. I know we've been working on organizing this project for well over a year, and it's finally coming together on a kind of a little bit of a drizzly day, but to be expected. As Catherine mentioned, I'm an investment and financial advisor, also a family-owned business owner with my brother Neil and I, who's here with me today. And we've been going at it for 25 years, coaching business owners like these gentlemen and others. I don't know the number, but I know it's thousands of business owners over the years. And oftentimes my wife will joke with me and say, you know, you're like a cat. I mean, you've lived 9 lives. You can talk to people at every age. And I said, well, that's been one of the benefits of being in the industry and working with families, and why I really love it. But one of the things that I think is so critically important as we make our way as business owners through the journey is we're eventually going to need to make some transitions. We're gonna have to make some changes, some big changes. And when we do, we don't want them to be abrupt. We want them to be comfortable. We want to be going into those with confidence, and we want to be able to do them successfully. And we're really excited to have a panel of great business owner leaders who have gone through the gauntlet, who have had experiences and are here to share their thoughts and wisdom with you. So I really hope you'll get at least one nugget that will help you to make this a priority in your very, very busy life. I'm going to start to the right and just start out by saying, driving over here this morning, I saw 2 trucks with the name Grondin on them. And I know where those guys are going, and I get the heck out of the way because they know how to move the earth. They make big holes and they do a lot of stuff that's really important to the infrastructure of Maine, and have been doing it for many, many generations. I'm so excited to have Robert J. Grondin III, 4th generation family business that has been in the earth moving business for many years. And I couldn't be more excited. He was with the company 50 years, working in the business, taking over as leader, successfully driving the company, and then exiting the business per se in his day-to-day role. So really excited to have you, Bob. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Next to his left is, well, I'll ask you first. Anybody here been to any soccer fields or football fields with their kids, grandkids, or whatever? Do you think that those fields naturally look beautiful? No, they don't. This gentleman right here, his company, this is a Robert Vickerson. He goes as Bert. His company is named Sportsfield Incorporated. It was started by his grandfather, Jerry, who then gave the lead over to his son, Jim, and a partner. And then in 2020, he and Kevin, I believe, who was your partner, took over the firm. And so he's been leading the company for 4 years, has been driving through, I'm sure we haven't forgotten, COVID was in there. Well, he earned a lot of stripes getting his company through that period. And we're really happy to have you here today, Bert. Thank you. And I'll ask you one more question. Anybody ever buy a book on Amazon? If you haven't, you want to buy my book. But if you're curious, before you buy that book, you usually look, how many stars does it have, right? Before you buy the book. Well, to my right here is a gentleman whose technology and company created that system. And I'm very excited to have Fran Tulin with me, longtime friend and CEO of Fire Brands Incorporated. Make sure we get that right. Technologies, excuse me. Was initially Quality Solutions that was started in '87. And he brought all kinds of technology specifically to the publishing industry, and grew the company to 15 million in revenue, over 125 employees. And since the company was sold to a affiliated partner, if you will, a company by the name of Media Dough, a Japanese company. And he's on the board of that organization and still involved some. And again, kind of an extremely interesting journey that Fran has been on. So please welcome our great panelists. So let's dive right into it. You know, we're going to talk about transition. You know what the topic is. But there's so many challenges that happen in that transition. And there's key elements that I think are so valuable to learn from people who've been there. So I'm going to start to the right with Bob. Bob, obviously, you spent quite a bit of time at Grondon. You know, 50 years is quite a period of time. I'm sure it went by quickly for you. And you took over from Dad, and I'm sure there was a whole process there. And then you made a decision to move on and transition the company. So we'd love to hear your story around that.
The story around it. Well, I guess first of all, for all of you that aren't aware, good morning. I'm past partner and owner of R.J. Grondon & Sons, third generation earthworks company located in Gorham, Maine. What was once a family dairy farm, R.J. Grondon & Sons, was founded in the late 50s by my Pepe and my dad, and my uncle Phil joined the team in the late 60s after a tour in Vietnam. And through hard work and determination, the company grew from a handful of employees to over 150 workers today performing work in southern and central Maine. As Randy said, I've been with the company for about 50 years. I started the day after I graduated from high school back in '75. But I had about every job there was coming up through and worked my way up the line. And anyhow, let's get to the reason why I was motivated to exit. I felt that the timing was right. I often wondered what it might feel like not having to get up and being at work at 5 a.m, taking it home with me at the end of the day. I witnessed friends and family as well as fellow workers decline in health, not be able to enjoy retirement due to health or even death. On the other hand, others leading a healthy and successful life enjoying retirement. I had my health and my hobbies and my family, and I made the decision to step away from the family business that I began my career with almost 50 years ago. Company was doing very well. We've always worked hard to ensure that our workforce, as our workforce grew older, there were younger team members coming along who would have the opportunity to gain knowledge from those older workers and better fit into their shoes when the time came. We built a great managerial team. We had a lot of energy and new ideas and process. The admins, the estimators and project managers, the crews out in the field, from top to bottom, we have a dedicated group of individuals, and they've all contributed to our success. So in 21, my goal was in 3 years to step down as president of R.J. Grondon & Sons. A lot of the challenges along the way, I carried my dad's legacy, and how do I keep the team together to continue to carry on? I knew I had all the pieces in front of me. I just had to figure out how to maneuver the field so it would be as seamless as possible. There was much to think about. Upholding the legacy, the strength of the business, my successes, what it looked like from the outside, i.e. the bank, bonding and sureties, clients, and so on, not to mention the worth of the business as it related to the payout and all the other aspects.
I think what a legacy you've left, and I think it's incredible. People don't often notice the great things until they're broken, right? The infrastructure that's around us is so critical. And I think it's quite a legacy you and your family have built. So thank you. Maybe we'll move on to you, Bert.
Sure.
You transitioned during this difficult time, as we talked about. I think you mentioned your dad and his partner had approached you one part in the journey, and I'm sure there were a lot of sleepless nights, maybe thinking about taking over the helm, but.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Is that not getting at a 5 a.m. thing nice? Like, taking it
We're all
all
ears, we're all ears.
Yeah, taking it over during COVID was a little bit of a wild event. Luckily, we had everyone in place for my father with the accountant and investment people and bank folks and everyone like that. And they helped us. They understood that it was a 24-year-old who had a bunch of ambition and maybe no money, but tried. 10 seconds of confidence in a pen. But either way, we all met and sat down, and luckily there was the PPP loans and a few other things that probably the only one that had a little help from the government getting their money back. So yeah, it was good. A lot of people you had to rely on. A lot of things that maybe being younger didn't take appreciation towards the older generation, my father and his business partner and what they did. Sort of like you, it sounds like, came up working in the shop and working with forklifts and deliveries and raking in fields. And then now stepping into, oh, we gotta do payroll. Oh, then, the boys do like to get paid on Friday. And then taking it from there and taking all the advice, and by the end of it, it was pretty smooth. A lot of meetings outside due to COVID, a lot of masks. The state's a little bit older, and some of our advisors are a little bit older. So there was a few of the immunocompromised situation things. But after everyone got through that, it was good. It was good.
Fantastic. How critical do you think the team seeing that you were right in there, you rolled your sleeves up and you worked too? You weren't just a rich kid that came in and
Yeah.
you don't mind. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was good. Being the kid, I grew up there. The house was right next to the office. So all the older guys saw me, started on the forklift and, mess up and maybe blow a tire out on something or break something. And then as we started going through it, having to be the guy that, oh no, we're staying late today. We gotta continue to get it done. It worked out, but there's a moment you gotta sort of remind everyone that you are now the boss and not with everybody. And I might have participated in some shenanigans when I was younger with some of the other boys and had to sort of step back from some beverages in the fridge maybe or whatnot. Yeah, it went, but it took a minute.
Okay. How, I know there's different styles with leadership. Each dad or grandfather treats it differently. Was your dad, the day you closed, he said, "See you later, Bert, you're on your own," or did he stay there and kind of?
I think he's doing ice melt this morning.
Is he?
I think
Okay.
he's putting out ice melt this morning.
Okay.
I don't know if he's missed a day yet. Yeah, but no, he stayed with us. He's helped tremendously with a few situations, more or less banking and explaining to folks that, hey, he is younger, but we have a history, we have a clientele, we have a book of business. Though he is younger, he does need financing. It's worked out.
Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate the comments. Let's move to Fran. Fran, Firebrands Technology was your baby. You grew it from startup all the way through. What a journey, right?
Yeah.
Getting there. Probably can't believe that period's over. But you also decided, you had some conversations with your 5 children, but you sold to a Japanese company. Maybe you could share with us some of your thoughts around that in your story.
Yeah, so actually 6.
6. Oh,
But, so, yes, so I started my business, literally over a barber shop and started by, consulting. I came from a consulting background. I started my business doing consulting work in systems and technology in the 1980s. And, which, at the time I used to joke that if I was on a plane and somebody said the word database and I looked around, I probably knew them. Now that's such a ubiquitous thing that, you know, we all say it every day. So I was very early in the technology world and, you know, things like AI that we all hear about now, I was doing that stuff in 1984. So that's my background, but the idea of running the business, taking it, moving it from, you know, a single person to where we got to, which by some measures isn't very large, but, you know, 115 people, and we were operating in the US, UK, France, Germany, and Japan. So we had places all over. There was a lot to learn along the way and a lot to transition into. And when it came time to start thinking about the transition, one of my ideas was to try to get one of my sons into the business. And I don't know if you want that story now. So I was in London for a conference and a bunch of business meetings, and I'm on the phone with my son, Sam, who I'm trying to lure into the business. Sam currently works for Meta and is a very brilliant kid from his mother. And I'm trying to get him to come into the company and maybe take it over. And he said, Dad, you know, and this was the best interview response I ever got in my entire life. He said, Dad, you know, I appreciate you're going to give me more money. I appreciate you're going to, you know, give me this thing that's working so well and blah, blah, blah. He goes, but you know, I shut off my computer at 5 o'clock. I go upstairs and I feed my kids, and I don't think about work until 7 o'clock the next morning when I get online again. And he goes, if I worked for you, yeah, my standard of living would be better. I might turn the computer off at 5 o'clock, but by 6:30, when the kids are fed and starting to go to bed, I'd be back thinking about it. And then I'd be worrying that I'd let you down. And I had an immediate dual reaction. First reaction was, as a business guy, was like very disappointed. No, I really don't want this. As a father, I was ecstatic to hear him be able to state that so eloquently that I said, forget we ever had this conversation. This is over. You know, that thing went away. So I had to go then look for, you know, another way. And that was a very interesting process, as both Bob and Bert have talked about. You know, its legacy and people are your key considerations in all this movement. And I had people that I had worked with. You know, I didn't do this alone. I started it alone, but I didn't do it alone. I had a lot of people, and I had probably about 20 people that had been with me for over 30 years. And so there's a lot to consider there, and it had to be very private how I conducted this whole thing. So I guess that's great story.
Randy, I'm sorry, we have a tech issue. We're gonna have to interrupt you just a minute. We've got an issue with your microphone, actually.
Okay.
Sorry.
Was I talking too much? Is that?
Your jokes didn't land.
All right, sorry. All right, I'll cut it back.
You'll let us know when we're okay.
Change it over here.
Otherwise, you're right on time. Great job.
Station identification.
Yes, sponsor break. This is the audience participation part.
Wireless issues.
This is what the judge needs. Where you can check. Right, exactly, live TV.
This is the worst thing, we're okay.
Right, and no one was in the accident. That's the best. All set, Chip?
Yeah, let's give it a text.
Say a couple.
Test, hello?
I think that's it.
So, okay, great. Thank you. Super. Well, great stories. Thanks for kicking those off. So interesting, I'm sure, for everyone to hear real stories. But I think we also know that there can be some learning moments in life, all right? You know, not everything goes as we plan. Sometimes we don't know what we're gonna do later today or tomorrow, right? Life changes. So I'll go with you, Bert. What were some things that happened during specifically that showed up that you said, gosh, what an amazing learning, growing experience that you'd be happy sharing?
Yeah, so in the middle of trying to buy out my father and his business partner, we decided to acquire another company. Because that makes everything easier. So we, that was a little bit of a challenge. Coming out right out of school, you know, they give you the textbook and, you know, you do this method or that method to evaluate it or whatnot. You know, buy low, sell high traditionally. Only issues that you're buying from your family, so it's sort of, you know, it's a little weird if you put dad on dog food at the end of the life. It was those things and speaking to people and then during COVID, being in the middle of it, trying to get answers quickly and efficiently to people who needed things timely. You know, your taxes need to be done timely. There's things that just have to be done. That was the biggest learning moment of, oh, wait, like, you know, we can't punch out at 5. It's sort of, you know, oh, no, you need to go down to Portland, go meet with somebody, drive back up to Waterville, go meet with the lawyer, make sure everyone has their paperwork, because whether or not you like it tomorrow, they need X, Y, Z. That was one of the bigger ones. Yeah, and then the business partner, luckily, he's a lot more about the service side of things and running the day-to-day operations. He sort of stepped back and was just like, you know what, why don't you go deal with the paperwork? I'll make sure the company's actually, you know, making money today. So it was learning that whole, how everyone was gonna work, where your spot was versus, well, how my father ran it and his business partner ran it. That was the biggest thing, I'd say. Just learning your role, know your role.
Great. And as far as customers accepting you being the new leader, any issues around customers, you know,
Well, I'm the kid. The kid showed up.
Okay.
And, yeah, you get a lot of phone calls in the background. Luckily, my father handled it pretty well. And just told, no, you gotta speak. No, it's his now. It's his problem. He's either gotta, you know, sink or swim. Though he was in the background making sure we didn't sing, but, no, he kept it pretty good with speak to them. You know, worst thing they'll do is say, I don't know, write it down and get you an answer tomorrow. Luckily, we're doing athletic fields, not healthcare, so we can be a little slower. But yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Let's move to, thank you, Bert. Let's move to Fran. You know, obviously going through a transition, there's change that comes up and learning moments, right? And I think people would love to hear some of the things you learned and maybe some best practice tips that could be helpful in the journey.
Yes, so I'm a big fan of the better lucky than good style of life, you know. It's my golf game is that way too sometimes. But one of the decisions that I made during the transition process was to have an advisor and a lawyer, and an advisor who was basically my I don't know, representative during the transaction for most of it, as well as having a lawyer who handled a lot of the details. I I had tried to sell my business way back in the 1990s during the internet boom and almost lost it at that point because I took my eye off the ball of running my business while trying to transition my business. So I learned this lesson the very hard way, that you have to keep your eye on the ball of running your business all through the process. My process of selling the company took 9 months from start to finish, from the first proposals that we sent out till the time that we actually closed. And that's a long time for a small business to not be thinking about day-to-day operations, things like that. And so, so having a representative that helped me during that process was great. And actually, they talked me off the ledge 3 or 4 times when the deal never almost went south. And so it was really important to have people around.
That's great. Did you find that there were cultural issues? I mean, this is a foreign company, how they do things versus how we do it here in the States. Did that show up or you?
You know, since I didn't have a lot of experience in selling companies, I bought a bunch of little ones that I pretty much did with the back of an envelope, but I didn't have much, you know, I didn't have much experience. What came up for me with this particular Japanese firm was the amount of due diligence work was overwhelming. I had 17-page document that had, 12 little bullet points under each of these 17 pages of information that they wanted from us, going back to every contract that we had ever signed since 1987. And every item of inventory and every person's information and all this, I mean, personnel records for people that I had forgotten had worked for us. I mean, it was really detailed what they were looking for. And so that was really, I think that's a cultural thing for the Japanese, but they were very diligent. And so that was tough. And then certainly there was language barrier issues where most of the conversations were with people that spoke English very well, but the heavy conversations came with people where there had to be a translator present. And so every conversation took 3 times as long because you had to speak to the translator had to speak to the person had to speak back to the translator, and they speak to you. And if you had to clarify the question, it wasn't anything like that. So that was challenging.
I bet. How did you communicate this to the team? I mean, people must have noticed something was up, right?
Actually, that, going back to Bob's people and legacy idea, that was a huge concern for me. And I personally made the decision to keep it as absolutely quiet as possible until we had a proposed deal in place. I signed some people, I gave them bonuses, and I had to have my tech person and my accounting person on board, but I had to, swear them to secrecy. I really didn't want, I knew this process was going to take a long time, and I didn't want the whole team to be like in upset mode, because they're all professionals and they're all out with clients, and like all of a sudden it could have been a very devastating to the business. So I kept it very quiet until the deal was done, or till the deal was agreed to. Then we had 3 months of contract negotiations and challenges there, but that's another whole. I'll let Bob talk.
Thank you. Great insights, Bob. Obviously, you had a lot of success at your firm and a lot of stories, I'm sure, to tell, best practices of the journey. Some you started sharing please let's hear more.
Yeah. Well, during the succession planning and all, I wouldn't necessarily change anything in general, but that with a small group and fill in the blanks, find an advisor to work with the team. If needed, along with your plan, you may choose to bring a few more people in as the thing develops. You're not gonna do it overnight, so I'd suggest starting early. We started in 2021 with the plan that come December 31st, 2023, I'd be signing some papers and hitting the sidewalk. They wanted me out, so they. Anyhow, to get the project started, our initial team consisted of myself, my cousin and partner, Larry Grondin, who was vice president at the time. Larry also oversees the pits and the quarries and other related things to the manufacture of gravels and aggregates for our projects as well as retail. Jake Jones, vice president of finance, Sean O'Leary, senior estimator and project manager. Jake oversees the administrative part of the business as well as several LLCs and properties that support the business. And Sean has a good mindset of the inner workings of the company as a whole. He sits in on the weekly managerial meetings. He has good knowledge of construction process and good negotiating skills, and well respected by his peers throughout the industry. And it just so happens he's also my son-in-law. These guys were really instrumental in helping lay down the groundwork to fit both my exit as well as the future direction of the contracting business. We determined we needed an advisor to help guide us. We chose Frank O'Shea. I think many of you may know. Frank's an exit planning advisor for a closely held business. Frank was at Berry Dunn for more than 15 years, where he was a principal and served in the management committee. Anyhow, this was really no small undertaking. There were many moving parts, as you could imagine. We met monthly at first, and as the thing got along and got figuring out a little better where we were headed, we just met quarterly during the last year just to ensure all the bases were covered and closed out by the year's end.
I think it's so important to see others show up, right? Some of the other team members rise up. And I think as you and I had coffee and talked about this, I think you made the decision to split your role some into two roles because you were, over time, you were doing probably more than you should have been. How can you talk about that process of kind of splitting yourself, your roles? How'd that go?
Yeah, well, originally, there was 5 of us in the business. My dad retired in 2000, and my uncle in 2004. It was myself and my 2 brothers and my cousin Larry and his brother. So we all kind of had things we'd been doing all along, and we didn't really want to step on each other's toes. So we kind of worked within our own areas of expertise. And not that got too confusing, but as it was, I think we all worked very well together. And of course, as a few of those people left the business, we kind of had to jump up a little bit and take care of what the void that was left. And so I had, some stuff to do inside as well as what I'd generally done out in the field, keeping an eye on the operations end of it. And I depended a lot on a lot of people inside, and we all got through it.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Yeah.
Randy, I'm sorry, we have to interrupt you one more time about the audio. Sorry.
Because that's more fun anyway. Can I
I'm
steal?
not gonna
your-
sing, am I?
Can I just steal your audio? Thank you so much. Just need to turn it off and keep it had it right back.
Use this.
You give it a check. Chip?
Test. Didn't realize I was audio impaired. I guess I am. Well, let's move on to the next section, which I think is really important. I think everybody has touched on it, but early in the process, it's so important to have the right professionals, right? I think everybody has kind of mentioned that. And I think what's for us as exit planners, one of the most frustrating things is when somebody comes the final hour, they don't have a good team of professionals, and they want to close the business and sell it within, we had someone the other day who wants to close and sell and move on by year end. And I said, I've never seen that. I mean, that's only a few weeks away. I just simply don't think we can do it. But this does happen because people don't know. They don't know what is involved. And there's different stages. Many of you think, well, until I sell the company, I don't have to work on this. And the reality is 3 to 5 years ahead is really the sweet spot where you can make a difference. And so your advisory team, 3 to 5 years out, will have some key people, but then within 2 to 3 years, if you decide, hey, I want to grow the company, there's a different set of people that got to emerge. Or I want to protect what I've built. And then the last phase is, okay, now it's showtime. Got to transition to other family members, my children, another company. And so again, some people stay, but some people need to move on. So I think this section is kind of talking about some of those, more specifically, some of those professionals that really, help during maybe some sticky times. It's not always fun conversations that go on. Valuation at the company, asking people to move on, things like that. Change is not easy. So I'll start, Fran, with you. What were some pieces that came to mind?
So I think that one of the things that hit me kind of hard during this whole process was that it's very similar to you're selling a house. You don't sell your house. You don't just decide one morning that you're going to sell your house and the next day it's on the market. Most of us have, at least my house is, 75 years old. So I'd have to spend a fair amount of time taking care of a lot of little things, making sure that it was set up so that it was as attractive as possible, so I get the highest price for it, right? I think if you're going to sell your business, that's certainly a consideration, and you may have to start pretty far in advance because you might have some pretty structured, you might have some structural problems, which I had in my business. So it took a while for me to get the business to be in a specific place where it would be attractive for a buyer. I guess also, staying on that theme, you want to be able to present it as well as possible. Now, there's not multiple listing services for selling your business, and so how do you do that? And this was where I engaged my professional representative, who beat me over the head for a year, basically making sure that I had the business set up correctly, that I had the right trending numbers so that it looked very attractive, so that when we put the deck together to present to potential buyers, what it looked as good as it could possibly look. And so I think, to your point, that's a very important element. Those professionals, I used one that I knew for many years, who was very familiar with the publishing industry, which was my ecosystem. And so he was able then to help me identify potential buyers and to get that deck around in a very confidential way, which was also important to me, because if it was out and about that my company was for sale, that could be detrimental to my business. So
Brad, did you weigh in with other entrepreneurs, other business owners? Did you kibitz with anybody that,
other than you,
well, I mean, yes, other than me. Nobody wants to hear about that.
well, you know, just an aside, how Randy and I got to know each other was through a group called Vistage, which is a CEO community group. I mean, I always thought it was sort of what's the word? It's sort of, you know, a group of people that got around and convinced about all their things. And the support group, that's what I was looking for. It's a support group for CEOs. And that's how Randy and I met. And so there, you know, those folks were helpful in a lot of ways. And so, yes, having people that you can confide in is really important. Doing this completely through your own brain is a bit of a way to mess up a lot of parts of your life, I think, but
Well said. Well said. Bob, you mentioned Frank several times. I was curious, did you meet every month? Did you, like, how did you kind of run things? Only when you needed them, you reached out? Maybe you could share
No, we've met every month,
every month?
and then it was kind of every other month. And we'd work on pieces in between and meet in-house with our guys and get certain things to a certain point. And he'd come in, another set of eyes, just to kind of look over how things were going. Yeah.
Did you, when it came down to discussing what's the price of the company, you know, I mean, this is a multi-generation.
Yep.
Just curious, how did that go? How do you work on that?
We're good.
We're good. You got money in the checking account?
Well, we kind of talked over what I needed and what was good for the company and all, and we figured out how to figure the worth of the company without getting a whole lot of thought into it. And we just both came to an agreement on several things, made a few concessions and got it done.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think it's so important to get the financing right and the package right. You know, sometimes if that's not done right, you can really hurt the next generation. You know, we had a meeting with someone just this week who was talking about, you know, this big loan they signed up for from dad, which they felt great about doing, but it was a crazy interest rate, and boy, it was a drain on the company for many years, and they finally paid it off. And so, yeah, they got their money, but boy, it was a lot of strain on the next generation.
Right.
And I know in your case, being the 4 generations, you know, we know as family-owned business people, sometimes you don't make it through the second and third is a tough one.
Mhm.
And you guys made it. So obviously you got the magic happening at Grondon. in this
We
regard.
got a good team. Yeah.
Fantastic,
Yep.
fantastic. Bert, obviously you were the acquirer, right?
Other
And
side.
maybe you're taking notes here.
Yeah.
You should be. All right. And I'm curious how things went with your folks and then moving on to the next chapter and how the advisory team emerged, which I think can be their team and then your team, right? Was there
Yeah, a
some-
little bit of it. Luckily, my grandfather was very structured when we originally sold from my grandfather down to my father. So there was some rules, more or less, that like he put in place, and how once you get there, hopefully you've sort of made your money and try to help out the next group and keep money in the business. Way we had to sort of pay some of our own employees a little bit more as I learned things and as I had to sort of grow. We had to make sure to keep a few of the key people around. So that was the big thing. luckily, everyone that, a lot of the advisors were people that the company had worked with for a long time. And I knew some of the companies that were helping us, some of their family members. Like mom and dad might have owned the accounting firm, and I knew the son, and so he sort of could help me in the background with bits and pieces. So that was pretty key. One of the other things that we did, my grandfather always told us when we were looking at employees, we're out hiring and whatnot. He always said drive by their property. He goes and see how they take care of their stuff. Because if they don't take care of their stuff, they're not gonna take care of your stuff. So I took, so we sort of took that, and as I was looking at lawyers and accountants and who we're gonna pick, there's a few of them were really nice, but drove by and, all right, like, you know, like maybe the grandfather, he's not with us anymore, but you know, he might have a little piece here and we'll go with that, and it went relatively smooth. You know, it's still a family business, you still gotta see him on Christmas, so you gotta sort of keep it amicable, but yeah, it was good, and we had the right people there.
You have any rules like no business talking around Thanksgiving? You know, when you're giving the toast, you don't.
No, it's too many people, it's all the family, we're all, yeah. It's just what happens, it's the related situation, so it's just sort of what we talk about, but
Nice. Excellent. Well, great pieces of information there. I want to make sure we have time for questions, because I know many people are remote more than we thought today. So any questions out there that we can answer?
Yeah, so we have about 20 people on Zoom, and this first one is for Bob. What advice would you give to other business owners considering a generational transition?
Guess you'd have to talk to your partners. They choose to want to bring somebody in. You may not have that person. But I guess on your exit, it may be a way to relieve some of the buyout by bringing in a person from your side, I guess, to take on part of the load there. Then they would have to be worthy, I guess, and be part of that operation, not just a silent partner, right? So.
We have another one too.
Okay.
I have two actually.
Just two.
So for Fran, what is a key learning point that would be helpful to share with others about preparing to exit?
Key learning point. Key learning point is that you have to keep your eye on the business as you're going through this. So you really have to compartmentalize the process from your day-to-day responsibilities. Then I would say that you want to make sure that your numbers are in order, because as much as people see the value in our company for what we do, at the end of the day, it's a financial transaction. And so the numbers are way more important. I'm sure our banker back there will tell you that banks will only lend on performance. And so what we perceive as value through our customers and our lists and our number of clicks and all these other things, they don't show up in the financial transaction.
If I can add to the answer, one of the things that I know business owners are busy, being one, and oftentimes most of your equity is in the business. And so the traditional places you might go to get a financial advisor and talk about your financial affairs, you simply may not have that going. And as much as I know business owners know how important it is, they often don't have their own personal plan in order. And some may say, well, I know what it is, I got it in my head. But if you don't have it, you don't actually know what your number is. What is the amount you need to get out of a business sale? And it can put you at a great disadvantage if you haven't done that preparation. So I really like to make sure everybody hears that. Take the time for your own planning and get your plan in place. It will pay you big dividends in the end. Question?
So they're also asking, can we talk more about valuing a business? And can anyone speak to selling a business and building together, which I think, Rand, maybe we're talking about that.
Well, valuation for my company, I can't speak to the other gentlemen here because they kept it in the family. So value is different. But valuation for my company, since it was a financial transaction, is based on discounted cash flow. And so there are formulas around discounted cash flow that you need to understand. You need to look at how strong your revenue base is, how good your book of business is, what your profits are. And you have to be able to present those in the best way possible. From there, a number pops out of there. What you ask for your business is much like how you value a house. You know, now you're looking at comps to see whether, you know, your business is similar to others. So I think those are the key elements.
If I can add some points, you know, a business can have the same level of sales and the same level of EBITDA, but will be perceived differently if the structure of the company is not there. And the new buyer wants to see that they can buy that company and increase the valuation, and looking at what's going on in your industry to determine what is the multiple. What is the multiple of bottom line EBITDA is what drives it. And so you can have the same company, but by adding additional strength to that company, the things that you can control, you can affect the market value of that company. Now, some people here might say, well, I'm a family-owned business. We're gonna sell to my son, grandson, whatever. But family-owned businesses get sold. And if a family-owned business gets themselves in a spot where they are tight, where they have dissension, where they have death, where they have divorce, unexpected issues, and they need to go to market, you want to have your company as strong as it can be on its own. And it's really, really important. There was a company that I just heard of, Cumberland Farms. I didn't realize that was a family-owned business, just sold within the last several years to a private equity firm in Europe. And I thought it was a great family story. But again, it was time for them. They had hit a spot, and it was based really on not having their valuation in good order. So I think if you start early in the journey, you can affect that. If you wait till the final hour till you have a deal on the table, there's not much time or any time to work on that valuation. But I'm glad someone asked that question.
There was a second part to that question too. I think that about building together. So I guess in retrospect, I'll say rightfully, they classified this as Fran's company, that, you know, like without Fran, the company value would drop precipitously. And so I signed on they wanted me to sign on for 10 years, then they brought it down to 5. And then we finally settled on 3. But then I've been on the board for 2 more. So it's, I'm still around. But the building together was important. I will say that these last 2 years, simply being on the board, have been very challenging personally. There's a new CEO, and you know, having been someone who built this thing, I was used to doing something about problems when I saw them. Now, to simply have an advisory capacity and then have a new CEO be the person who does this is that's tough to not have the strings to pull yourself. So
Any other questions out there? How about here in the audience, Deirdre?
So all of you had advisors, and I'd be interested to know what qualities and skills you all looked for in determining who those people were going to be. And then probably a follow-up to that for Bob and Bert is, did you advise or were you advised to have your own separate advisors from so people coming in or out? Two sets of people, I guess.
Let you take it first.
Don't fight over it.
Yeah,
I know
he's
you
gonna
guys.
go into a Rochambeau.
Well, I think it worked well with us to have that one advisor. I certainly could have went and got my own, but I trust my team and I think we worked well together. We kind of knew what we all wanted, but we wanted that third party looking in to make suggestions or make sure we didn't oversee anything or whatever. And I think that worked great for us.
For us, it was sort of a mixed situation. There was a lot that we all did together. And then different pieces, just by being younger and not doing it before, I needed a little bit more help per se, especially when you start getting into EBITDA and cash flows and discount models and things like that. Needed a little bit of guidance per se. Saw it in school, but now it's real life and sort of your money. So yeah, it was a 50-50. But a lot of it was, we'd already done it before, with my dad buying it from his father. So him sort of explaining, don't get frustrated, don't, go off the hinges, just sort of accept it, understand it's death by paperwork. And then eventually, you sort of get to see what you created, and what's been created before you. And then you get to make the decision of, are we doing this? Are we not doing it? And this is the number you're gonna end up being responsible for. So that was sort of what we did. But it was more accounting for me. The banker was great. Our accountant, the shared accountant was great. It's just the terms and the, we need a 941s and then whatever. I think at one point he was asking me for like a DD 214. I think that's how you get out of the military. So I was sort of like, all right. But we figured it out. We figured it out, and luckily it happened before once. So that's what kept us sort of flowing.
I think one of the things to add to those great points is that, working with the team of advisors to know what they want to work on. Some advisors, whatever it might be, banker, CPA, insurance agent, financial advisor, may not want to work with business owners. Maybe they wanted to work with you individually and you were part of the team or at a certain stage in the company. But I do think it's really important that the owners drive the conversations around, hey, what are some projects you're working on? Have you ever sold a construction company before? No, I really haven't. I mean, who wants to work with someone who's learning on you? My first surgery. It's gonna be great. So I think it's really important for us as business owners to really stay in touch with our team. And just because you want to add more talent doesn't mean you terminate someone. You don't have to terminate your CPA because they frankly don't do a lot of transactions. And maybe you add an additional one that has the expertise of valuation and other types of taxes, et cetera. So I think it's really, really important. Yes, sir.
And just to follow up on your question is having a strong tax guy. So that we had both tax guy with Frank, and he dealt with family business exits. So for the tax play for both the person exiting and also the company. So we were able to make a package that was advantageous to both on the tax play. And then equally as important to that is having a good shareholder agreement. Written agreement, and then we also had precedent on valuation stuff. So we kept it consistent with multiple buyouts over the years.
Excellent. Other questions?
So how did you prepare for your next act after selling or transitioning the company? Anyone can take that.
Now what? You gotta go moose hunting every day, Bob?
Yeah.
Man, a few words.
Okay, next question.
There's a lot that I left kind of hanging while running the business. There's plenty to do around the house. There's plenty of hobbies out there. There's, stuff to do. A lot of trouble to get into.
You have a place in Florida or no?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
A lot of people do, and just curious.
Yeah,
How about you, Fran? You went through that journey. You're still at it.
I'm
so-
still at that journey, I have to say. So I, like Bob, lots of stuff, 30 years deferred maintenance on my house has taken a lot of time and 6 kids in different parts of the country and 6 grandkids that keep me running all over the place. And my wife worked with me in my business for the last 20 years, and it was never her calling to be in my business. She was just really good at it. And so now she's started a new career as a medical assistant. So I'm playing the house husband and making sure that dinner's on the table every night, and things are going that way. So that's, but in terms of what to do next, I feel like there's still a little gas in the tank, but there was a lot that was taken out, especially during the transition process was very, very tough. So I'd say that I'm pretty comfortable right now, but looking for something.
I think it's so important to not let it wait, start even a book of writing down some things you always wanted to do, or remembering back. If you love hunting, maybe, geez, I always wanted to guide, or I wanted to, there's various things that we dream of in life. And it's always hard for us as advisors when we sit with people and say, well, what are your goals? And I'm not sure. It's always been the business. It's always been my kids, my family. And so, taking some time earlier to really make sure you're spending time is really, really valuable, so that it's an easier transition, et cetera. So,
I would say that that's a great point, but that's a lot easier said than done.
absolutely, absolutely. It's really true, really true. That's why I'm here to bug you all.
So if there's time, I have kind of a silly question for Bob and Fran. What was it like to wake up that first day that you didn't go to work? Was there a day? Not yet.
It was like every day was Saturday.
I still get up in the morning, I'll have a coffee and go outside and watch everything out there, get up as well, or watch the news.
Well, is there any other questions? Maybe we can take one more.
Quick one up for each of you. How far in advance did you kind of start the transition process?
About 3 years. Minute I let on to them guys what I was thinking, they got right to work on it, and I don't think you can start soon enough. There's a lot to think about. A lot of pieces to pull together. There's a lot of things towards the end, as you well know, Jake, that needs to happen, boom, boom, boom. And Gotta keep after everybody out there that's getting all your stuff in place, you know?
For me, it took a year and a half for everything to finally come through. But for my father and his business partner, they had the 4 years I was at school and then one more year, so it took probably about 5 years for them. They knew once I was through college, was their agreement, because I was the youngest child out of the two of them, that they knew that was when they were gonna start to step down and sell. So that was a year and a half for me, about 5 years for them. Because if they didn't sell to me, they knew what they were about to do next.
Yeah, I would say that I mean, I know I said the process from actually putting the deck together to closing the deal took about 9 or 10 months, but the decision and all those processes before took at least, it was 3 or 4 years in the hopper. There just came to be a point where, I mean, I wasn't sure I would ever be able to have the business in the right place to actually sell it. So there were, once that decision was made, there was actually, you start to make some strategic decisions about your business that are a little different, so that we'll be in a good spot when it's time to sell. And that was a big learning point for me too, is that how you do things every single day might change a little bit if what you're trying to do is to maximize the value of the company in somebody else's eyes, as opposed to maximizing service that you're providing or doing something else. Like some of these little things get tweaked.
So true, right? It's a mindset, so much noise that comes through our business lives, right? And it's so easy to go for the noisy things, but really testing yourself to say, does that issue really improve the valuation and strength of my company? Or is it noise that can really wait? And I think that mindset is really, really, really important. Yes, Brooke?
Did any of you consider an ESOP?
Yes, I did. I considered the ESOP, and when it came to the valuation of the company, I wouldn't be able to retire. It wasn't gonna pay me enough. And at the time when I was considering it, and that was very early in my process. So, but I think, you know, if you have a strong business, an ESOP's a great idea. I mean, really what I wanted to do was to have the company be owned by the people that made the company. I didn't feel like I made the company.
Being one of the employees, I guess, just a touch, maybe. But as far as buying it with everybody, to be honest, did not consider it. But we had enough to try to figure out how, well, me being 24, buying it, and didn't need more factors, so not a ton.
We really didn't think it was a good fit for us with where we were at with everything, so kind of steered away.
I think it's so important to not rush into an ESOP. It might be their best answer for you, for a company, but not doing it without spending time really understanding the fit and having also starting that discussion early. I find too many times business owners are running into it and then having some buyer's remorse. It is a 3 to 5 year journey to get that settled in. And so you really want to make sure that you're on board before making that decision one way or the other. So I think we're out of time and need to move on, but I can't thank you gentlemen enough for coming and sharing, being open with what went on. It's not easy, and we're not paying you big money. I know that, but I love you. You know that.
It's an expensive
So, but I really want to thank you. I want to thank everyone for joining us and opening up to learn and grow. I also want to thank you, Catherine, and the Institute of Family Owned Business, is this topic many times doesn't want to be discussed because, oh, it's secret. Well, let me tell you, it's coming. So thank you for taking the chance, and I hope everybody learned something today. It's really, really important to start early, have a plan, and really make it right for you and your family. There's tremendous resources out there. One that I wanted to recommend, the name of the book is Walking with Destiny. The president of the Exit Planning Association wrote the book, and it's a play-by-play of the whole succession process. So if you really want to get into weeds, that's an excellent read. I'm also doing a podcast called The Rewirement Zone to help business owners to make the transition business and personal early. So I hope you can tune into that. And I also have some of my book copies here. And that's really was written to have conversations in your family about money. A lot of people don't like talking about money. I do, so do my associates, but many people don't. And so it's a great way to just start the conversation and start getting into the comfort zone. So I hope you got a lot out of today's session. Thank you so much. Keep striving for a bigger future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Thank you for your speakers. We really appreciate your insights. It's very helpful. Thank you to our sponsors. We do have some fabulous door prizes, and I have no business cards in here, so we need to give those away. We also have our survey, so if you can please fill that out and let us know what you're thinking. We do tally all these surveys at the end of the year, and I'd say 98% of our surveys are good to excellent. So let's keep that up, not a pressure, but if there are things you want changed, please let us know, because we really do pay attention to that. And we'll be having Deirdre's here, we'll be having our programming committee soon to figure out what we're gonna do next year. But we always love to do something on succession planning, because as you all have said, it is important, we need to do it. And if you don't have a business card,